Hello, John.
Hello, Brian. I'm just going to finish up now with another video, and, and I'm going to talk about Europe, which is the EU particularly. Europe was the cradle of Christianity. The cradle of Christianity, and it was Catholics primarily that started the universities, learning for those that weren't receiving any education. Most people were illiterate in these countries, and it was the Catholics and the Catholic Church and the Catholic priests and nuns and people helped to educate people and start the universities, hospitals, and everything that we take for granted today. They were started by them, and they were a great seat of learning and what have you. Universities now have degenerated into secular type institutions, and so far and so much for Catholic Ireland that the president of that students' body a few years ago, Catholic girl, was because of our Catholic philosophy and our Catholic attitude towards abortion, was made to leave that occupation, and to their eternal shame in that organisation. So the freedom of speech is curtailed, except if you don't, unless you accept this secular business in the universities, which were quite the reverse of that. Freedom of speech within reason was allowed. Now people that are Catholics are being persecuted and sidelined in these institutions. The Christian TV Ireland project doesn't support such codology. These universities should be a place where people can grow in maturity and be able to express their views within reason. And certainly Catholics should not be treated in that way, that they can't express their views. In some universities, they can't even form associations. So in Britain and these places, so this is something that should never be allowed. They're even complaining about it, the government in Britain, and making laws now that they can't do what they're doing, and to have this cancel culture, or whatever it is that they have now in universities, and it's not good. So this is what we're talking about, Europe and the cradle of Christianity. And where are they now? They're gone completely away from that. They haven't even got, Europe has, the EU even hasn't got God as their direction, and they're secular. And so much so that they promote abortion and demand even up to birth, which is absolutely dreadful. The killing of the innocents, and usually there's a lot. You don't know what sort of harm is going to come in the world with policies of that caliber, and euthanasia in many countries, which means that as you get old, or perhaps you're not so old, and you're ill and you need to be treated and respected, but suddenly you're getting pressure from your family to end your life because they believe in nothing. So your immortal soul is in grave danger of being murdered legally by the state instead of being helped. Likewise, young people, we have a suicide epidemic in this country, which is not spoken about too much because of the COVID and various other issues. By not speaking about it, they think it doesn't exist. It exists to a terrible degree, and mostly young people, mostly young males, but also young females. There's not a town, I think, or a family that hasn't been affected by it. There's some part of the family. Even in some cases, and I knew families and were good Catholic families and where they had received a good education. 2 or 3 in the one family committing suicide, one following another. So this is a very sad thing, and their souls are in grave danger for such things. Instead of being helped and to be dealt with, because they're vulnerable. So vulnerability is a very dangerous thing to suffer from, and people often suffer from depression from now and again with the constant pressure on them, and oftentimes the difficulties that they encounter in their work. Perhaps being bullied. Young people committing suicide, they're bullied in school. Now the signs on cars say something about not being bullies, but be bullies and not bullies, and all this type of stuff. So these are things that Europe need to sort of address, and don't have a view about abortion or any of these other things. Concentrate on the economic well-being of the citizens that they're responsible for. Keep away from these other issues which has to do with life. Keep away from them, for goodness sake. There's other matters to discuss, and support the weaker members of society, and have hospitals and institutions to look after them when they become vulnerable and sick. You know, don't be shunting them around and putting them on trolleys and not dealing with them. And perhaps doctors giving pills to people, and that's the end of their lives. That's no way for a civilized society to behave. We don't need that sort of carry on, because people are entitled to be protected, especially when they're vulnerable. So that's Europe, and funny enough, you might say it's gone godless. And the only jewels in the crown at the moment in Europe, funny enough, is Poland and Hungary. They're ones that practice the sort of Christian virtues that other countries practice for centuries, and to their regret now gone in a different road, and there's often a price to be paid for that. We've had unrest now. We've had this business of the COVID inflicted on mankind, and now no sign of the thing ending. And even though it's been relaxed and people don't have to wear masks all the time, but they are wearing them, and they're wearing them in Catholic churches, some, and even the people that the Eucharist ministers and so on and so forth. And by the way, Eucharist ministers, when they're needed, should wear soutane and surplice and women's cloaks to show respect and reverence for their sacred duty they've accepted. And priests should face the tabernacle, not the congregation. It's all right for Protestants that they don't have a tabernacle; they just talk to the people in front. But Catholics need to be facing the tabernacle, where the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus is present. So these are the type of things that need to be done, because the amount of lapsed Catholics and the lack of the vocations to the priesthood in a lot of these countries, the only place that it's improving is in the Latin Rite churches, which was a feature of Catholic life in my young days and into my 20s. And churches was packed, and confessions was packed on a Saturday night. So these are all things that Europe and countries would need to sort of reintroduce, because what they're concentrating on is the ending of life. Forget about that. Get away from that. So Christian TV Ireland and John Malone support these things, and we urge those to follow us and support us, because we know we have thousands, and we're begging them now to follow this sort of a path and to influence others that they may know to do likewise, and also that the Holy Spirit will enter their heart and soul, so as they can make donations to this worthy cause, the Christian TV Ireland, which is so sorely needed, not just in this country. And don't forget, we have Irish in this country, but we have nearly more Irish abroad, up to 5 million in Britain, their descendants and all the rest of it. And it was them that brought the Catholic faith over to that country, and many Irish priests went there to minister to them. And likewise they brought in America, in Australia, and all over the world. millions of them, 30 million Irish and Irish descendants in the US alone. So there's a great amount to be reached by this organisation. There's a great Catholic TV station available at the moment, EWTN, Eternal Word Truth Network, and that is worldwide, and in 125 countries, starting from nothing in 1981 by a poor Clare nun, Mother Angelica. She started it because she was appearing on a Catholic station, and they were going to introduce something that she was against, and so that's what she did. And she hadn't got a bean, but it came to pass, and would have been small enough in the beginning. And this is what the Christian TV Ireland will be, small enough in the beginning, but enough to be heard, hopefully, in the public square. But anyways, that's the what I'm finishing on now today. Thank God. And so I urge those that follow us to see about vocations, or to see about donations to this worthy cause. Thank you.
Thank you, John.